Hi, welcome to the Abort Ignorance Montana podcast, where we seek to educate, advocate, and heal the culture in Montana surrounding abortion. On today's show, I have a wonderful guest with me, Evangeline from the Montana Family Foundation. She's a communications director there and does a ton of work for them. So we're going to be hearing from her about an update on what's going on with abortion in Montana from a legal standpoint, as well as upcoming events and adventures that the Montana Family Foundation is working on. So before we dive into that, as always, we want to remind you to subscribe to our channel so that you can find us whenever we have a new episode going up. Make sure you download those episodes so that you can listen to them anywhere you are on the go. And then find us on social media, Facebook, Instagram. And as always, if you have questions about today's episodes for myself or Evangeline, or you want to just share your story or thoughts, anything, we want to be engaging with you as well. So please email us at abortignorancemt@gmail.com, and we'd love to hear from you. So we're just going to dive right in. Evangeline, thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, me too. It just worked out so good. You were up for another event with the Montana Family Foundation, and I snagged you for a quick recording. So tell our listeners just a little bit about yourself and what you do with the foundation.
I am the communications director for the Montana Family Foundation, and I'm actually I'm new to it. Mm-hmm. I have a long history in the political realm, but this is by far one of my favorite spots to be. I love the Montana Family Foundation.
That's amazing. Yeah, they do great work. I've heard of them just in the recent years, and there's so much that you guys are doing that is just leading the way in Montana for educating people about pro-life, pro-family issues, and just helping promote that whole culture. So thank you for what you're doing with them and for our state.
Yeah, and thank you for this. I love the Abort Ignorance podcast, and like you said, make sure to subscribe.
Well, thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah, because you guys have a podcast as well, the Family Matters podcast. You're the producer of that, actually.
Yes.
And it's also just a great resource to share all of those topics and information. So it's wonderful. So tell us, let's start with CI-128. Right. So that, we've educated our listeners a little bit about it, but it was a constitutional initiative that came forth in 2024, and it did pass. And essentially, it makes abortion without limits in our state. And so where is that at in Montana right now? How is that going? I think you guys have a lawsuit coming forward.
Yes. So it is in our Constitution now, unfortunately. And as we mentioned last night, this is a little challenging for our pro-life legislators now, or people who are going to get re-elected or elected this session, because you have to swear in to this Constitution that has that amendment in it. And it's like, well, we don't believe in that, you know, and but that is just really unfortunate. And one of the reasons I think it got on there is because, and you probably already stated this on the podcast, is the original ballot language. This amendment that was going to go in the Constitution was not on the initiative or what people saw. It was just a summary, and the summary was written by the judges who are radically, liberally woke. So much so that even though the last clinic to do gender transition care on children in Billings shut down, a judge still ruled that doing gender transitions on children is constitutional.
Wow.
So that's how, even though Montana as a culture, we're like, yeah, obviously common sense, we're not doing that. Still a judge is like, no, that's okay. And then they say that you can't even, sex can't be defined by male or female, and it's just crazy. And so, but we're challenging CI-128, as you said. And the basis of the challenge, our argument, is that the Constitution says that the amendment language has to be on the ballot. The voter needs to see that. And a lot of people are like, well, is the voter smart enough to know how to read that language?
Wow.
Well, it's like, okay, first off, you're calling the voter dumb or ignorant. They're not. And if you believe a voter can read the Constitution, understand the Montana Constitution, even the American Constitution, then why wouldn't you just put it on the ballot for them to see exactly what it is? So they just put a summary, and the summary was like, vote for the protecting women's health, and super vague. Anyway, so our challenge basically says, no, the ballot language, as the Constitution says, as Montana law says, needs to be the amendment language that will go into the Constitution needs to be on the ballot, and the voters should see it.
Yeah.
And so that's the legal challenge that we have going right now. And Derek, our chief legal counsel, he would have a more up-to-date, where we're at in the exact process. But I think that we are optimistic. We know that it'll go to the Montana Supreme Court.
Okay.
But we'll just keep you updated on what happens with that.
Yeah, see where it's going. Yeah, I think I heard him share recently that it's in district court in Yellowstone County right now. And that's where it has to start. And then it will likely get, kicked up to the Montana Supreme Court. And that ballot language that you mentioned, so it was, a ballot or a ballot statement that was there, and constitutionally, as you were saying, it has to be the full amendment, which is just like a page long. It's not crazy. I know I've seen it, and that whole time period of when the information was coming forth about CI-128, there was so much deception involved in that, and there was I believe the numbers are at least 150 people that were coming from out of state, hired for tons of money, like over $35 an hour, to gather signatures to move that forward in our state. They don't even live here. They don't have a vested interest in our culture and our morals. And there was millions, like $15 million from out of state funds and even out of country funds that poured into Montana when that was coming forward, just to push that agenda. And that small paragraph language, it's a summary, is just so deceptive. And I didn't realize it was the judges that wrote that. Do you know, is that pretty unprecedented for them to jump in the middle of that process and write their own ballot language like that?
I will say it's the first time I've seen it. And I don't know if it's unprecedented, though. I think that they do have the ability to do that. Like if the Attorney General, he might see what's going on the ballot and then redefine it, and then the judges just decided to write their own summary. In denying his. They say, no, we're not going to do what you say. We're just going to write our own. So it does, but it seems odd, though. And I know they did it, though, and the judges tried to get it on there fast enough and quick enough to get it on the ballot in time for them to collect enough signatures. So I know they rushed it through the process. And so there was a lot of activism on their part, for sure.
Wow. And judges are supposed to be impartial.
Yes.
And ours are clearly not.
No. Yeah, they are not impartial at all. And that's, why the next initiative. So these initiatives are, I interpret them like a virus that comes into your state from out of state. It's almost like a sort of a cancer that comes and takes over. It's just out-of-state money. It's nothing that it doesn't align with these Montana values that we have, and they pay, like even with CI-132 that's coming up, they have 170 volunteers, and all paid, a lot of them, most of them out of state, just like CI-128. And that's another one that will enshrine in our Constitution that voters shall be locked out of being informed of who their judges are. We will not be informed. And the very basis of a democracy is that the populace is informed on who they're electing. You need information. And they're going to basically take that right away from us. We won't know anything about the judges we're electing, which just makes our vote political theater. I don't know, I'll just write whoever. I have no idea who this is. I'm just going to vote. I mean, why are we even voting at this point? We're not even choosing one option versus another, weighing the... And so what then happens is that Montanans, our legislature is conservative, mainly. Our governor is conservative. We're electing legislators that align with our values, what we want to see happen in Montana. A governor, we're doing that. But now we're electing judges that, even though we sent lawmakers to pass certain laws, the same judges we elect will then strike down the laws that we wanted to be in place. So it's just a circular roundabout. And and so I would really encourage many to look into CI-132 and to take a really close look at it, because it will literally just keep all voters in the dark about the judicial branch and what they're doing.
So that's coming forth right now.
It is.
This summer, there's going to be people out there gathering signatures again to get that on the ballot for November.
Right.
For us to vote on that, and that would change our constitution to make it so that we can't know more information about our judges as far as like partisan, which way they lean. And I know a lot of people don't want partisan judges, but we're at the place in history, I think, where everyone is partisan, everyone has an opinion, and there's clearly, like you said, a cohort going on between the judges in Montana and some of these groups that are national groups and have funding from a national level that pour into Montana, like ACLU, Planned Parenthood, that do things like sue those laws that we... I mean, that's happened to so many abortion laws that we've put through the legislature that should represent us, as you were saying, and they just sue it, and then the judge... One, if it doesn't hear it for like 10 years, which has happened, or they say it's not constitutional. And so they're doing the same thing with the judicial laws that are coming forth, is what you're saying. Is they're like they're suing them and they're striking them down and they're just legislating from the bench. And so we want to be able to know more about our judges. And it's already hard to find information on a judge. I remember trying to vote, and it's like, where do you find any info on who this person is unless you can somehow, hear from them in person or something? And so having at least the option to gather information about that judge, are they Republican? Do they support Democrats? How does that look? Would inform our decision. And the CI, was it 132?
Yep.
132 that's coming forth is going to make all of that illegal, essentially.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
I would say if it does pass, there might be a way to get around it. I maybe shouldn't say it on the podcast because I don't want this method, but it could be possible to where if a judge does want to run and give more information about who he is, he could just go to where you get your name changed, change his middle name to conservative or to freedom lover or something like that, like, John Conservative Smith running for judge, and then, do something like that. But one thing that Derek likes to say is that partisanship does not mean you're partial. Like, you can still be partisan and rule impartially.
Yeah.
And rule by the Constitution. And nobody's unbiased. We all have a worldview. And even in other states, you can kind of tell that they don't have their judges elected by the populace. They're appointed. And that is a partisan thing where a conservative governor or like Trump is appointing judges that interpret the Constitution a certain way, and rule a certain way. And so you can be partisan but impartial.
Yeah, which is what judges are supposed to be. And like I said, they've done it forever. And I can think of, what I would probably consider conservative or Republican judges at the federal level that we've had, lots of hope for, and they've ruled on some things in some really great ways, and they've ruled on some things in a way that I don't like personally, but they were following the Constitution. They were doing their job, and that has to happen on both sides. And so if we don't have that in Montana, we're kind of stuck as far as the three branches of government working together correctly, and that's what has now happened with abortion. It's just abortion without limits.
Yep.
And we don't have an option there. And so the Montana Family Foundation is trying to come at that from the election law angle. Yeah. So the lawsuit you guys are bringing, from my understanding, isn't even about abortion. No. It's about the constitutionality of the way it was brought forth, and they violated the Constitution and some, rights of the voters and the way they did that. And this 132 that's coming forward would essentially strike out a lot of our headway we could make on judicial reform, is what it sounds like. So decline to sign. If you see someone out there petitioning CI-132 this spring, this summer, decline to sign. Don't sign that. It's not going to help Montana, whatever they tell you, and they're good at telling you deceptive things. If you have questions about that, reach out to Abort Ignorance or the Montana Family Foundation, and I'm sure either one of us would be happy to get more info for our listeners about the language of CI-132 and what it means, but important that we don't have that so that we can do things like bring forth this lawsuit and go after the election type of laws to help actually advance some more life topics in our state so that our hands aren't tied on every angle.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And actually, at the Montana Family Foundation, we do have research. We do research on the judges as much as we can. And
Great.
And that's a good resource for voters, especially with, past donations judges have made.
Okay.
I was actually looking into it, and we had to look one judge that had donated to Joe Biden and Obama and a bunch of other Democrats. Like, okay, I think I know where you stand.
Yeah. So that's on the website that you guys have?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's like Montana Voter Guide or something along those lines. But we do the background research for that and we submit it. So, so the judges and this initiative wants to cover information like that up, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah, and we don't want that because we want to be able to have an angle to still do judicial reform, because judicial reform is what is needed to help advance any pro-family laws in our state. At this point, pro-life laws, from my understanding, there's not a lot we can do at the legislative level anymore to bring forth laws, because it's in our Constitution, abortion without limits. But there's other pro-family laws that we could bring forth, such as, I think you guys brought some last session on protecting kids from transgender surgeries, and we had one that protected the free speech and religious liberty of pregnancy care centers. And so we can do things like that that support that pro-life cause and angle and pro-family, but we still need that judicial reform to happen, or these activist groups and these minorities in our state, they're still going to come forward and they're just going to keep suing all those laws, and the judges are just going to keep striking them down because they said they are biased, and we need to have judges that can rule impartially in our state to advance anything. So again, decline to sign CI-132. We don't want that.
That's right.
In our state. So I kind of mentioned this, that there's not a lot that we can do legislatively anymore to protect women and men and families from abortion because it's in our Constitution. But is there anything that you know of that, I mentioned some ways of kind of like the back door of the pro-family, but are there other ways that we can be working to protect women in our state from the harmful things of abortion, either from a legislative side or a culture side, or any thoughts on that you have?
Yeah, I can think of a couple things. Number one is to support your local pregnancy resource center any way that you can. They're out there, offering so much care to women and giving them all these resources and encouraging them if they need it, even helping them financially. And a lot of women they help women choose life a lot. And so that's really great. So I would say definitely do that. And then another thing too is we really need to work on fighting the battle in terms of medicated abortion. And I think we have, right now in our Constitution, we have the right to a clean and healthful environment. And that includes our water. But the last time our water was checked for mifepristone was in 1996. That's 30 years ago.
Wow.
And what they discovered is that, it does linger in the water. And it's a synthetic steroid, which means that it doesn't degrade like other chemicals do, and it lingers. Well, now, according to the Guttmacher Institute, there's been 4 million abortions in the past 5 years, and that's not including the medicated abortions. And so all of those chemicals are being drained into the water system, and there's articles and peer-reviewed research that's been done where it's like people are calling, like, let's test the water. We need to make sure that we're keeping our water clean. And they don't want to do research on that because they don't want those studies to come out. No, nothing's happening. There's nothing in the water. You never researched it after 1996.
Wow.
So we're trying to see if we can get testing done on our water. And so that's another thing that we can do. Another thing I think would be great too is there's some resources out there that really help women, and one of them I'd like to give a plug to is Let Them Live. Let Them Live exists specifically. Another statistic of the Guttmacher Institute is 73% of women abort due to financial issues. So they can't afford their phone, or they can't afford groceries, or they can't afford their apartment. And Let Them Live exists to pay for that, cover their child care, everything that they need. to help them choose life. And they have a whole slew of counselors who are moms in similar positions who made it out of that.
Wow.
And looking up organizations like that and supporting them, the pro-abortion side likes to say, well, what are you guys going to do? Like, how are you going to... And it's like, you can tell that they are not involved in protecting children at all, because if they were, they would know of every single resource out there that exists to help children. They don't. So there are things like, just kill them. Just kill the children. But we know of all the resources that exist, because we're the ones doing that. We're the ones helping the women and the children. And so they try to convince us of that. But it's like, no, if you actually knew the organizations out there that you're claiming we don't know, you'd be able to say, there's plenty of resources to help women and children.
Absolutely. And I love that, because just like you said, the pro-abortion side likes to, tote the high horse of we're saving women, we're helping women. It's all about women's health care and protecting women. And if you really break it down into what the message is to women that are in that situation of a pregnancy that whether it's unplanned or they just feel like they just can't handle it for financial reasons or relational reasons or whatever it is, the pro-abortion side is telling women, you're right, you can't handle it. You're not strong enough. You can't handle having a job and keeping up a house and taking care of a baby. Like, you can't do this. You're not made for it. You're too weak to handle this, and you should just abort, therefore. And that is so false. I mean, God made us as women to bring forth life, to be able to do all of the things that it takes. And so we should be telling women, you can do this. Absolutely. You are strong enough for this. You are capable. You were made for this. Like, will it be hard? Will it be different? Of course. I have a young son, and like, there are always moments that are hard in that, but it's worth it. And so organizations like Let Them Live, those are groups and just conversations like this where we're telling women, you can do this. You got this. You're made for this, and let's help you, because there are some hardships and babies are expensive. And so I love that's that resource, and we should have more of those coming forth. So that's a great one to get involved with. I think it's so good, because we need to be giving women the message that, of course we can do this. We were made for this. And dads too, all families, like, this is what we're for. And it's so rewarding to do it and then have resources to help them. So I love that. I think that's a really good option of what we can be doing locally. And pregnancy resource clinics do that on some level. They offer diapers and even like parent counseling and how to parent, and they offer clothes and wipes and all kinds of things like that. And so getting involved with that is amazing. And what you mentioned about the water, I think it's so important to bring that up, because it's not just the you mentioned steroids and the hormones that are going forth from these medical abortions. Those are all going into our water system, and between that and birth control, we are consuming synthetic hormones, and in general, the testosterone level in men is down, largely because of the consumption of estrogen and progesterone and other things in the water system, and other plastics and things like that. And it's also disrupting women's hormones, which then can cause infertility. So it's this vicious cycle of, like, even if I'm not on birth control or having a medicated abortion, like, I'm consuming these little bits of hormone disruptors in the water system, and that's causing, there's an infertility epidemic in our country right now too. So it's factoring into that, as well as they tell women to flush the remains of their baby into the toilet. And so we also have fetal remains in our water system that are polluting that system. And there's a fantastic resource called Fragile, and it's a magazine. Have you heard of this resource?
I haven't.
It's really great. It's a little magazine that was put together, and it has this research, and it's, graphics, like not a bad graphic image, but like informational pictures about how the water system works and how what we just explained is like seeping into the soil, and then how it just does this whole cycle of coming into our water system. So if you guys want to have one of those magazines, reach out to abortignorancemt@gmail.com. I'm happy to mail you one free of charge. It's really informational. It describes that whole thing on just like a scientific level. And so I think that that's a great place to be advocating, because we probably can do, again, the backdoor angle of, what was it, health and...
Oh, we have the right for a clean and healthful environment.
Yes. So if that's the right that we have, then we can be working to end abortion, or limit abortion, at least limit Medicaid abortion, or medical abortion, from the angle of clean and healthful living, as well as the judicial reform. So there's other angles we can be working on to help change the culture in Montana to help make abortion unthinkable. And then the Constitution, if it's in there or not, doesn't matter because it's unthinkable anyways.
Yes.
Which is the end goal, I would say.
Yes, I would say that too. I think the last thing that I would recommend in terms of is just, I guess, educating. I guess it's the grassroots side of it all. But I think a lot of people, especially maybe in Montana, conservatives too, where they hear stories where it's like, what are you gonna do for, I guess basic is like, what about if a mom's in this situation or this? And they kind of like bring up all these anecdotes or whatever of what could be. Yeah. But the fundamental argument that we need to understand and why the pro-life side always wins in the end is that it is always intentionally wrong to kill an innocent human life.
Yeah.
That's the fundamental argument. And people can bring up all these different anecdotes, but you got to think to yourself, does this validate killing an innocent human life?
Yeah.
Does this make it okay? No, it still doesn't.
Yeah. And
nothing makes it okay. And I know that, and then people, they'll be like, well, you're a bad person. You're, you hate women or anything like this. And I got to credit Scott Klusendorf, who wrote The Case for Life. He lays this whole thing out, and it's just absolutely brilliant, that it's just this logical argument. And even if you are a terrible person, the logical argument, the premise, conclusion, the syllogism, and is it true? Is it valid? And yes, it is. It is always wrong to kill an innocent human life.
Wow.
And that's just the fundamental. This is what we need to understand as conservatives in this movement, and that's what we need to fight for. And I think that's what we need to help educate the people on, in terms of if there was anything grassroots-wise that we need to do.
Yeah. I think that's incredible because there are many people across our state that we encountered when we were advocating to decline to sign CI-128, and many people in our state, they know it's a human life and they know it's wrong and they don't want it for them or their family or their daughters, but they don't feel like it's their right to be in someone else's business. And I think that we have, valued in some ways a right to someone else's privacy, our own privacy, and we have overvalued that in relation to abortion. And we get upset when, there was a horrific story in the news a while back of a dad. He ended up strangling his 2-year-old son. And that person went to jail because he attempted murder on his 2-year-old son. And so life begins at conception, and people admit that. And in our state, it's like the logical next conclusion is like, okay, then it is my business and it is wrong because it's ending an innocent human life always. And so it makes it very black and white at that point of it is just always wrong. And then you add on to it, it actually does hurt women and it hurts men and it hurts families. And, it hurts all of these things, not just that baby, but ultimately it is that. So I think that's great. Just sharing that simple truth that it's always wrong to kill an innocent human life anywhere we go, anybody you talk to, teach it to your kids, teach it to your grandkids, and share it with your pastor, share it with the people at your church. And the more we talk about that and make that less nuanced to talk about and just straightforward in a loving, compassionate sense, maybe that will help to start shifting our culture to value life more than what we perceive as someone's right to privacy.
Right.
So
yeah, I agree 100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I've learned so much just from our short conversation already. We're almost out of time, but I know the Montana Family Foundation has some really exciting new adventures coming up. So tell us about what you guys have coming.
Absolutely. So great, exciting, culture-shifting news is that we are building a new building in the heart of Montana's capital.
Wow.
And it is, we like to call it a 3-story vertically integrated hub. And what that means is that we have a lot of the Christian nonprofits. They're all going to be housed on the first floor.
Wow.
So it'd be like Pro-Life Montana would be there, and all of that synergy and teamwork and the ability to collaborate and what can be done when great minds come together like that, I'm really thrilled about. Second floor is going to be where all our attorneys are, Christian conservative attorneys who will help litigate and get us through, especially with the judges at this time. And so that will just be, and then the nonprofits can use work with these attorneys and to help propel these missions forward. And then the top floor will be Montana Family Foundation and all of our staff, and I'll be up there, and so it's the Center for Christian Policy, I believe, the Montana Center for Christian Policy, and right next to the Capitol, big letters in Helena, which is not necessarily red.
Yeah, no, it's a battleground in Helena, and that's where you guys are based out of, and that hub's going to be there. That's so incredible. I think one of the challenges we have had historically in the pro-life movement across Montana is, I mean, we're a big state, and like we have some, larger cities and different areas, but tons of rural communities still, and it's just been hard to connect and have a unified pro-life movement that has come forth. And from my understanding, this time in history, since CI-128, we've kind of really all connected, and there's been such a unified movement. And so to have a hub like that where everyone in the state who has, a pregnancy resource clinic or a pro-life group or whatever they're doing, they can just have that as a resource and a hub, and it's just all right there. That is absolutely groundbreaking and culture shaking for our state. And I'm so excited for when it opens. I've seen some of the floor plans, and it just looks amazing. It's going to be an amazing resource. So that's wonderful that is. When is it gonna? You guys broke ground or are breaking ground soon?
We broke ground, and so it should be coming around in the next couple years or so. We should be ready, and it's crazy because we were able to get around the Helena commissioners who would just they were trying to build a building before, but they create all these rules because they don't want us there. And so even though the Montana Family Foundation had purchased a building, we were not able to build last time. But we were the Montana Family Foundation was shrewd, and so we were able to bypass them. At least they didn't know it was us, and so that's great. I'm really excited.
That's amazing. Yeah, definitely favor from God on that, and it's going to be life-changing. And then you guys have an event coming up in the fall as well, right?
Life Summit. Okay. Yes, the Life Summit's going to be huge. It's going to be hosted by the Montana Family Foundation, and we'll have all these different pro-life organizations coming together to celebrate life, and we're really thrilled about it. And then as soon as more information comes out on the planning and details of that, we'll definitely share it, especially on the website.
Perfect.
So
awesome. Yeah. So whenever you have that details, those details we'll share on the podcast as well. Let you guys know how to register, where to stay, all of that. It's going to be in Helena, correct?
That's right.
In Helena, at a venue there. And I think it's just going to be great. Just another unified time for everyone who is pro-life to come and just get education about what's going on from all the angles of pro-life, pro-family in our state. And again, just be together and just have that synergy. And I know I'm always so encouraged when I'm around other people that are fighting for life, fighting for family in Montana, because I think it's one of those battles that the enemy likes to wear down the saints, and you can get tired really easy. So I know my husband and I plan to attend the Life Summit in, I think it's October, and we're really looking forward to just rubbing shoulders with like-minded folks. So we'll make sure and share that information when it comes out so that you guys can also, our listeners, attend, register, and go to that. Any last thoughts, Evangeline, before we sign off?
I think that any last thoughts that I have would be stay strong in the fight. There's hope out there, and we're not going to let our state, go all the way woke left. We are a state that values life. I'm going to speak life into Montana. And it's no longer, like as the Montana Family Foundation kind of likes to say, it's no longer about left and right. It's become a war of love, life, and death. So there's just a side that promotes death, and there's a side that just values life. And so, like with transgenderism, right, that's sterilizing people, and so they can't have children. And LGBTQ movement, right, you can't even produce children through that. So, and so that's why we just need to be on the side of life, and Montana is on the side of life.
That's right. That's right. No matter what you hear out there, the majority still, we're on the side of life, and we're going to fight for that. That's right. And that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being on. It's been such a pleasure. I've learned so much. Make sure that you guys follow the podcast, subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, download episodes so that you can always hear them anywhere you are on the go. And then find us on Facebook, Instagram. And as always, if you have any thoughts or questions for myself or Evangeline or the foundation, email us at abortignorancemt@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. We want to have you as part of the conversation. And you can also find the Montana Family Foundation's podcast at the Family Matters Podcast. It's on anywhere you hear podcasts as well. So listen to that. They have great info. And then research them at, what's your guys' website?
Oh, www.montanafamily.org.
Perfect. They have amazing resources, ways to get involved, legislative updates, all of that. So definitely get involved with the foundation and listen to their podcast. And we look forward to talking with you all again next time that we're on. Have a good one.